Happy Friday morning, everybody, and thanks for checking in. We're back again. TDR, Trade to Black Podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. What'd you all think of that interview yesterday with Anthony Cognilio from New Lake Capital, along with Jim Cacioppo from Jushi? Thought those were two really good interviews. Really impressed with Anthony and the guidance that he's been giving about his company, but the overall industry. But lots on the go, and here we are, fresh new day. Village Farms, TerrAscend are the next two companies that we're going to feature here this morning and talk about some of the highlights from the latest earnings. But welcoming both their chairman and CFO of TerrAscend and the CEO of Village Farms. So let's jump right into it once again. Anthony Varel, good to see you. How are things? And busy week, to say the least.
Very busy. It's been actually looking forward to this interview with Mike from Village Farms. Got to try the product last time we were in Toronto.
You did.
I can understand why the numbers are moving in the direction that it's moving. It's always good to have him on.
Yes. On that note, let's welcome him in. Mike DeGiglio, CEO of Village Farms. Good to see you. Happy Friday morning.
Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Before we get into the numbers, Anthony, talk about your experience, the product that you had in Toronto last time you were on.
It was great. I had the Kush God from in Toronto. It was great flower. Quality was great. Smell was great. Pack was great. Packaging was great. It was all around a great product.
Awesome.
Yes. Good to see you. How have things been? Good for the most part?
Yeah, we're all keeping really busy, trying to drive it forward, doing a lot more in the EU, getting Netherlands up and running, which is super exciting. So really looking forward to that. First rec market in the EU. Just as a reminder, we're one of 10 licenses. Sort of a limited license country, for lack of a better term, with 10 issued, and we're the only North American company with one. So we should be project should be finished and completed probably in about a month from now.
Okay.
And we should be starting production 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow. So before I get into numbers, your latest revenue, like what's the biggest thing that I think maybe like a lot of investors here in North America are not aware within that market? And like you said, in addition to what you just outlined, like how lucrative of an opportunity is this for the company?
Well, I think, like if you look at the EU, people talk it up really big, and it will be big, but like everything else, it just takes time, and we don't want to get ahead of it. Number one, I will say it's a very tough business to be successful in. Canada, as an example, I think is a tribute to our team that we can have positive cash flow when 72 cents of every gross dollar revenue goes to the Canadian government in one form or another. That's pretty tough,
isn't it,
in that market? Consequently, I think the Netherlands, the government there took a hard look at what was working here. There's no tax there. Prices are much higher. Going into the dispensaries / coffee shops, 4 to 5 to 10 euros a gram. So it is lucrative, but I think it is a springboard. The Netherlands has an incredible reputation of technology when it comes to high-tech growing. It's sort of the mecca of high-tech growing, actually. Even on the food side. Here's a country that's a little bigger than the size of Rhode Island or Massachusetts that was for many decades the number 2 exporter of food in the world next to the United States. So it says a lot there. So if you can make it there, I think it becomes a great springboard for additional rec markets in the EU when that happens. I think it's just a matter of time. But don't want to get ahead of it. Let's concentrate on the Netherlands, and we want to try to really be number one. I think we can make a huge difference leveraging our quality. We've proven that in Canada because remember, all the product that's been sold in the Netherlands up to this point is from the illicit trade or people trying to grow in the gray market where they're rushing so they don't get caught. So I think it's a game changer there, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, it's good.
What does the retail infrastructure look like there? Is it going to be a hybrid of like coffee shops and dispensaries that you can service?
It's actually starting to change. I was just there 3 weeks ago, and I've gone to some coffee shops which now look very much like a U.S. dispensary.
Okay.
More and more people are just not more and more. It's starting to happen where consumers are going in and then just purchasing cannabis and leaving the establishment, going home. I haven't seen that before there. So I think you'll start seeing more of that. But there's about 590 coffee shops in the Netherlands. About 85 are part of this first phase that are now.
Okay.
And I think you're starting to see hands change. There's a lot of folks that have had these coffee shops 30, 40 years that are looking now and selling. So it's very exciting. That could be a great opportunity for us to be a fully vertical at some point in time. And we're looking at that. So,
Okay.
Great.
yeah.
Well, they know a lot about greenhouses, and so do you. And I'm sure there's a connection when it comes to that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, looks like a big opportunity to say the least. And was not aware, obviously, of the opportunity within the Netherlands. But I think there's a lot of moving parts with the company, and I know there's a lot of numbers that you reported. But let's jump into some of that stuff. Revenue expectations, they actually exceeded, posting 92.2 million compared to the anticipated 84.3 million from 3 analysts. Based on the 92.2, your consolidated sales increased 19% year over year. You did report a net loss of 23.5 million on the quarter, but overall, you're gaining momentum in the Canadian cannabis business, where your shares have added about 28% since the beginning of the year versus the S&P's 500 gain of 9%. So overall, what do you think is the big main takeaway from these latest numbers that you want to share with your investors?
Well, I mean, starting with cannabis, the team has worked incredibly hard, and we're driving forward. And the expectation that you can continue to deliver this sort of performance every single month, that's tough to do. And I'm not saying we strive to do that, but it's always going to be up and down as we're building in a nascent industry like this. So that being said, when I look at the 45% increase year over year in cannabis, 35, that's even a stronger number for us, 35% at the retail level. We indicated yesterday we're only one of the 5 large LPs in Canada that have continued for the last 5 months or so, increasing market share. And that's not necessarily going to happen every single month. It can't. But, we're number 2 overall. We have number 1 position in Ontario overall, all categories. And as you know, Ontario is the largest province, and number 2 in Quebec. So we're driving it forward. We've challenged the team to be number 1. That's our goal. Wherever we go, let's be number 1. And they've done a fantastic job driving it forward with innovation, product quality, number 1. And great strain development, consumer insights really working well, putting that all together. And, based on being what we believe is a low cost producer, I think it's a winning formula. And the other thing is we have been systematic. We always had this crawl, walk, run type of mentality. And let's try to be number 1 first in what we're doing before we move on to something else. An example of that is flower. We wanted to be number 1 in flower. We've been number 1 in flower over 2 years now. And before we moved on to pre-rolls, which now we're number 2 in just the last 12 months. So that's another great accolade for the team, going to number 2 in pre-rolls. And let's be there and be strong. And then let's, continue to drive our market share and profitability before we went international. So we're last 2 years took on more and more exports of medicinal cannabis out of Canada for international markets, do it in a systematic approach. So now we come back and, we're under indexing in vapes, and what are we going to do with our vape program? And that's another example of moving it forward. Innovation in pre-rolls, that high def pre-roll at 35, 45% THC, which is just pure flower. People think, we've had people fact check that because they couldn't believe it. And that just really shows tremendous innovation in the team. And, you have to have newness. Consumers want newness. You see it all the time. Someone could come in and say, wow, I had this product from Pure Sun Farms. It was fantastic. Loved it. What else do you have that's new? Yeah. So you have to understand that. So driving forward with newness, quality, consistency, and innovation, and then being able to consistently lower your costs to drive at least operating cash flow at this point.
We've seen some brands come up to Canada, as well as some domestic brands launch infused pre-rolls and excel in terms of product innovation, and I guess pushing you forward to eventually own that category. Do you plan to go into that into that segment of the pre-roll category, or do you see that as more so like a novel, like one-off product that a lot of people don't really?
I can't answer that directly, Anthony. I think we've got a couple launches coming, sort of with stuff that's very unique, and that should be probably launching in the fourth quarter. So probably reserve that for the next catch-up that we have.
And then as it relates to the pricing environment, are there any insights you can give us as it relates to wholesale and retail? Price per gram that you're seeing as it relates to flower in terms of either more compression or stabilization?
Sure. I mean, on the wholesale market or the B2B, we've seen sort of a 20% increase or close to it now, which really shows that there is the overcapacity issue that Canada suffered for many years has really come down. Our inventory levels, we need to operate with about 6 months inventory because the amount of steps you need to take to process your orders for each of the individual provincial boards. And, it's a very detailed process to export medicinal. Mm-hmm. Everyone requires testing and certain protocols that form. So you really can't operate with less than 6 months inventory. And but that's the goal we hit, and we're there now. In fact, we have been actually shorting some of our orders now. So it's a real turnaround from where things were a year ago even. And our inventory levels since January have dropped 30%. So we're sort of in that sweet spot that we want to maintain now going forward. And then we've seen that prices increasing on the B2B market about 20%. So that's a great sign. And I think we've sort of bottomed out on the retail price side. And I think we do have to get some of our prices back up as an industry. And I think that's sort of next. So feeling, cautiously optimistic with pricing.
Yeah.
Point. So
how would you best describe the Canadian cannabis landscape or market right now?
Well, look, I say this sort of every place that we've looked at in the conference call yesterday. We did take the write down. That's why our numbers that loss was so high, the write down on our U.S. cannabis cannabinoid business, because, here's an example of the frustration that we have. So we, as Village Farms, always prided ourselves on not taking any risk on invested capital till we know what the playing field is. What's the policy? What's the law? What's the regulation? And one of the things that I feel bad about is when the Farm Bill at the end of 2017 was passed and drove hemp. You have cannabis, you have marijuana, you have hemp, right? Drove hemp to legalization.
Yeah.
Which was monumental. We thought, hey, it's passed. Hemp is now legal. We can create, a cannabinoid industry based on hemp, full spectrum, cannabinoids that can help people in tremendous ways from anxiety to pain. And of course, in full spectrum, hemp has THC in it at some level.
Right.
You could ship that, and we did so. Now, because it's not regulated by the FDA or DEA or anybody, all that work has not been completed in the U.S., so it's floundering, and it's caused a lot of Delta-8 and all these other products that are going unchecked, unregulated. And it's a real problem because states now, in trying to protect their own interests, are saying, no, you can't ship any full spectrum here with any normal amount that you would see in THC. So it's a big problem in the U.S. If you take that to Canada, and I've always said that the Canadian government, as the first major country to legalize cannabis, what a courageous and bold move that was. But in those 7 years since legalization, you have to go back and say what's working, what's not working, how to do things. And, excise tax is one of those. I don't know of any consumer products that pay a top line tax of 40%. I mean, this year we'll pay $100 million just in excise tax.
It's crazy.
And that's before licensing tax and payroll tax and property tax and income tax. So it's very hard for a lot of folks in Canada, and you see a number of bankruptcies. One of the things that concerns me is, companies are going bankrupt because unlike the United States, you can get out of your tax. So people are filing bankruptcy to do that. and still maintaining their license. And I think that's somewhat unfair to the companies that are paying their taxes and continuing to go forward. So, that's an example. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying, looking at
I hear that everywhere.
We want it to be fair. It's got to be a fair playing field for everyone.
So question, Michael. We talk a lot about lobbying in the United States as it relates to rescheduling, as it relates to safe banking. Are there efforts being put forth in Canada to bring this to light to the government, whether it's on the federal or the provincial basis, to assess this excise tax? As I mean, it's borderline predatory as it stands right now on your businesses as they stand today.
Yes, there are. And we're involved in that. We have some great people who are involved in it. Some of our competitors with us are involved in it because we're all dealing with the same issue. And, we say, well, why, alcohol as a comparable, because I'm not going to say baby food, but alcohol, why can't we just be at the alcohol level, which is like sort of 10%? And I think one of the things.
What's the response you get with that when you bring that up?
It's understood and it's under
review, and they just tell you what you want to hear in the meantime. Yeah,
it's under review. And because I think in the end, some of the I call them initial smoke and mirrors actors that were in the Canadian market had touted so heavily that cannabis would be sold for $15 a gram in Canada. And I think at that time, Health Canada heard that message loud and clear, as a new and asset industry. And that was just a bunch of what I call folks that really didn't have a clue what was going on. So that's how it was established. And that's the example coming back and reevaluating a number of these items. If it was on a percentage basis, because remember, we're paying $1 a gram, and it doesn't matter if you're selling a value, a discount product, or a super premium product. And as opposed to being a percentage.
Right.
Because the market has been segmented. And if you look today, value segments are growing. There's a lot of inflation. People are watching their pennies. So some of those value markets are growing, and you still have to pay the same excise tax on a gram basis. So,
and then, I mean, also on the other side of the coin, you're kind of special in this light, as you have the fresh produce business that's attached to the cannabis business, which, I mean, we could all define as ag. Are you having any conversations with any of the ag lobby or any of the hemp farmers in the States as per what conversations they're trying to have with the cannabis side or the federal government to kind of get this thing rounded up?
Well, yesterday, my closing remarks on my conference call was a reach out to other LPs on the marijuana side, hemp side, beverage side. Can we all get together and have one voice? Why are we fighting? We're all here supporting cannabis for various reasons. And why are we, ripping each other apart as opposed to come together with one voice? The lawmakers in the United States are hearing so many different things. They get confused. And we need that voice. And I did reach out. My door is open to work together. And that's what we're going to attempt to do.
We're hearing that more and more too, which is great.
Yeah, we heard that. We heard that from Boris Jordan about him reaching out to the actual hemp farmers to really start to get them involved and create an alliance between the hemp farmers and the cannabis companies. Because, I mean, it makes sense. It's all the same plant at the end of the day. And we can't cut off our nose to spite our face and just start to wrangle up the industry how we want it.
There's enough to go around. There's enough to go around. The market is, it's a tremendous market in the United States. So why are we doing this? I hope we can start doing it. We're going to take a more active role. We have to, and we will, just like we have in Canada. But to your original question, I mean, every single market we go into is different. You'll see that in the EU. And there may be some consistency in the EU, but each country will have uniqueness to it. And that's a big undertaking for any company looking to do business there. It's a little easier on the export side, but if you're actually going to invest capital like we are in countries to produce there, which you have to under rec, you cannot ship any products for recreational. You have to be going in with your eyes wide open, So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming the expectation in the Netherlands is kind of going to be a steady, slow, steady growth to the market as it progresses.
Yeah, and we're already eyeballing our second project there. So as it works out, because we'll need some serious capacity in the Netherlands if eventually all 590 coffee shops are going to go legal. So exciting.
Yes.
And it's a risk reward issue, but it's
What
what
kind of capacity are you considering in the Netherlands? Do you know?
Well, right now we're starting out with 2,500 kilos, but the next project would probably do 3 times that amount. So,
Okay.
Which we're looking at for 20.
How do they view Well, it's kind of
And that's an indoor facility, by the way. So it's very high tech. It's pretty amazing. I mean, you could stand next to it and you wouldn't have any odor or, as we call it, aroma coming out. And
how big is it?
It's the facility is, I should know that off the top of my hand, but it's, let's see, I can't, it's about probably 10,000 square feet.
Okay, so it's a decent size.
So it's not huge by the scale we normally operate at.
Yep.
Again, crawl, walk, run. It's a significant investment. But I'll have more color on that in the fourth quarter too.
Last thing I'll bring up before I let you run, your produce operations down in Texas. And I know eventually, once things starts to change a little bit legislation-wise in the U.S., that's going to create a lucrative opportunity from the cannabis side. But what's your thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on in Dallas, Texas, and decriminalizing cannabis? Have you followed that much?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Texas, the company here, we've kept this optionality and working produce. Produce is a tough business because of policy. And just as a sidebar, I've always come back and said government policy has had the biggest impact on the businesses we're in, agriculture. Yeah. Even when you look at cannabis, we're still producing, so it's still got an agricultural side to it. And of course, what was the game changer for all U.S. fruit and vegetable producers, not just greenhouse, was really NAFTA, which is now USMCA, because we're competing with Mexico that has just a tremendous advantage. Yeah. Over the U.S. When you look at labor, it's still a very labor-intensive business, like cannabis is, and technology is still further out there, especially within the cultivation side. And you look at $22 an hour versus $12, $15 a day. That's a huge advantage. So yeah, that can also play in one day in the future, even with cannabis. Who knows 10 years out if that product will be part of USMCA, because I guess it would fit. So yeah, you have to take that into account. So that's always been an issue since NAFTA to compete. You're competing in the U.S. market with countries that have an advantage. And in this case, Canada exporting to the U.S. and Mexico both have a huge advantage over producing in the United States.
Do you think that happens one day? That's the way it'll work and operate?
Well, if we took a long-term global, view of our SWOT analysis, you could list that as a threat, because if cannabis was legal in Canada, comprehensive legalization in the U.S. and Mexico, I'm sure somebody would say, well, what's the difference between cannabis and avocados?
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
So, but I think it's way down the road. But it's possible, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you see that now in produce, because I know you're familiar with some of the greenhouses in Ontario and how they're building operations in states like Georgia and Texas as well right now. But curious to see, obviously, how that'll all unfold. But yeah, it's still a ways down the road for that.
Look, we're so big on the medicinal side. I mean, just like the knowledge and of how cannabis, how that plant has helped so many folks.
I see that
medical problem. When you see it and you become part of it, you really understand it. And we would like that voice to be to communicate that voice better. And we really want an opportunity to do that in Texas. And I think there are some cities, as you said, like Dallas and others, that are saying, hey, we really need to take a hard look at this with our legislators. And we want to be part of that communication there. We love Texas. We've been operating in Texas for 30 years. I think we grow about 90% of all the tomatoes grown in the state of Texas, field greenhouse or otherwise. So it's near and dear to our heart. And we definitely want to be number one in Texas when and if. So
5 million square feet combined with all the facilities. Is that correct?
5.5. Yeah.
That's a good
buy them
size
at my
place.
Publix.
And it's a great environment. We, you know, believe it or not, most people don't know. So we're all the way in southwest Texas. Our facilities are at 5,000 foot elevation, same as Boulder, Colorado. And it's kind of funny how many years I've been traveling there with, you know, coming out of Houston or Dallas, and with Texans who have no clue that Texas has, you know, mountain peaks hitting almost 8,000 feet.
Wow.
You know, it's 12-hour drive from Houston, so it's way out there. But it's an incredible growing area. It's ideal for cannabis, and actually, we don't even need supplemental lighting at that latitude.
Yeah.
So cool nights, warm days, opportunity for the future. So that's why, you know, that optionality for us is something we just don't want to give up. If you couple that with the knowledge of our team, which we've proved in Canada, it's the same model in Canada. Take an existing produce asset that's had 20 years of chronological data, has an incredible growing team that have been growing 20 years. It's a different crop, but you get used to that pretty quick. And when you combine that with the cost of conversion, as opposed to a new build that can take 5 years to ramp up on a large scale, you know, it's an unbeatable business model down the road. And I think, you know, what we've proven in Canada is what we want to leverage in other places as we go forward. So
have you ever considered loading that thing up with hemp, or not even close?
Well, we have a hemp license, and we've looked at it, but until you know, Texas still has to regulate that. Yeah, because even though it's national, so but you know, I think on the hemp market, it's sort of hard because for hemp flower, you know, hemp, you're really extracting it more so. Like the gummy market, we have an incredible gummy line, so you're not really selling hemp flower to speak, and it would be hard to compete with sort of marijuana flower. So I think when it comes to that, you really want to get your costs lower from field grown hemp. We will use, you know, the high tech growing for where we're selling premium flower, premium dried flower to the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, listen, always great catching up with you. I love how you're upfront, honest about certain things within the industry. And, you know, most importantly, you're gaining momentum, which is great to see. And, you know, great stat we found out here this week that 77% of cannabis consumers in the U.S. want to support the legal market. Yeah. And everybody's doing their part just as far as the overall growth. So I think there's some short-term catalyst moments, as we've been discussing, over the next few months, combined fundamentally. And it just really feels like the dog days of cannabis could be behind us as we basically pivot from startup mode to now mature growth, which is great to see. And you're one of those stories. So
absolutely. I mean, the toothpaste is not going back in a tube here. So we're moving forward.
Yeah,
not at all.
We got to get to the Netherlands, my friend. We need to go around, film some coffee shop locations, and see your product and brand. How's that sound?
Good. And we're looking for some quality control folks to come in for a couple of days, check things out. So let me know.
No problem doing that.
No problem doing that. Anyways,
doing that.
Tell the team that we say hi. Tell Ann we say hi, and let's keep in touch, okay?
All right. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Great guy.
It's always a good conversation.
Always a good conversation. You know where things stand as far as the overall industry of the company. He does not sugarcoat anything. And most importantly, just you get something away from it and you learn something new from it, right?
Yeah. Yep. Always.
All right. Let's now move on. And it's time for our second interview. We're going to bring in the CFO of TerrAscend, Keith Stauffer. Good to see you, sir. Happy Friday morning.
Hey, guys.
How's it going, sir?
Good. I think Jason's joining as well.
Is he?
I am going back and forth with him via text. He's trying to jump on his computer right now.
How's things been?
Yeah, good. I think we're happy to get through our earnings yesterday and feel like we had a good call and pretty good quarter in Q2 and a lot of exciting things to happen in the coming months here, especially on the M&A front, which we've been talking a lot about.
Nice. Well, before we get into numbers, I'm going to an event tomorrow on Lake St. Clair in Michigan, and they're trying to break the Guinness World Records. There's a raft off. They have about 15,000 boats. So if there's anyone from Gage Cannabis I could swing by, maybe I should just create some content and send out some product, because there's going to be about 100,000 people down there. So what do you think?
Wow. There's I'm sure there's a nearby store somewhere. I don't know exactly where you're talking about, but hopefully the weather's nice as well.
Yeah, it's supposed to be clear skies.
In the New York City area here, we've been it's been quite the rough week.
Has it been a lot of rain?
Yeah, a lot of rain.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, we're going to come on with Jason in just a moment, but I know yesterday, before we get into these numbers, let us know, people. We have actually Canopy Growth coming up after this live stream. We're recording with CEO David Klein at 12 o'clock. So if there's any questions that you guys want us to ask, feel free to leave some comments right now, because we're going to be doing that in T-minus 29 minutes. That video is going to go out on Monday morning. So let us know any feedback from there. And then what else we got next week? Early next week, got the cannabis, right, Anthony?
Yes. I'm trying to get Jason logged in here.
Okay.
He's having problems with his phone.
So anyway, what's it been now? 13 months since you guys listed on the TSX? Where does time go, right?
It has been 13 months. Yep.
How would you best describe year one being listed on the TSX?
I think, look, I think we paved the way. I think it was innovative what we were able to do and differentiate ourselves from that perspective. We had some good. I think, as you guys know, Jason, Ziad, and I took a couple trips over to Europe. We had some good reception there. Of course, this is all within the context of a bit of a wait and see mode in the industry in terms of what's to come with federal reform and rescheduling and everything. But we're happy with especially the receptivity over in Europe and the clarity that we got around no restrictions on buying our stock on the TSX. And a lot of the Europeans would say, look, if you were on the CSE, we would not touch your stock. So
really?
Okay.
So again, time will tell in terms of the long game here, and that's what we're in it for, the long game. So we're happy with being on the TSX, and certainly it's a more senior exchange, and when things turn, there'll be more liquidity, more accessibility, and again, a greater audience.
Without naming names, how would you best describe the overall industry, the latest earnings season? Have you paid much attention to it, or you've just been?
Oh yeah, we've definitely paid a lot of attention to it. A mixed bag, I would say.
Yeah.
Players starting to separate themselves.
Yeah.
And not all boats rowing, together in the same direction, I would say.
Yeah. It's not mini league soccer anymore, where you've got a bunch of kids following one soccer ball, right? It's just, you're definitely starting to see some companies starting to separate themselves. But Jason Wild's going to be coming up in just a moment. This is Friday morning TDR Traded Black podcast. Just finished up with Michael DeGiglio, CEO of Village Farms, on with Keith Stauffer, CFO. Aaron, do you want to correct that off? Yes, you did have that. CFO Keith Stauffer from TerrAscend, and in just a moment, Jason Wild, the chairman of TerrAscend, is going to be joining us to talk about their latest numbers, and there he is. Bring him up. Good day, sir. How are things?
Good. How's it going? It's weird.
Good.
How are you?
Everything's old is new again, as we welcome back some familiar faces to the podcast. How are things, gents? Having a great summer?
Everything's everything's good. Having a good summer. I don't know if you hear the cocktail music in the background. My hotel room is so small that I didn't even have anywhere to sit at a desk or anything like that. So
where are you?
To the restaurant. I'm in Midtown, Manhattan.
Nice. All right. So I hear you guys are getting lots of rain.
Down with some cheap hotel rooms for the week, so the rooms are too small to take a video.
Yeah, they were 3 square feet each room.
Yeah. Well, Keith, listen, you outlined mixed bag as far as earnings for the overall industry. However, with you guys in particular, your latest numbers reported some strong numbers, and really one of the few companies in the sector that reported another solid quarter of results. So let's begin with some of that. Revenue up 7.5% on the quarter to $77.5 million versus $72.1 from last year's same time period. Your net loss was 6.2, which was an improvement from last year's net loss of 12.9. So Jason, I'll begin with you. When it comes to revenue growth, which markets are you seeing the most, lucrative and best opportunities right now, looking at your last 3 months? What continues to pivot and trend in the right direction?
What's trending in the right direction? Well, New Jersey is our biggest market. It's where we get, our most profitability from, and it continues to be a strong market for us. We, on the call, we discussed how, sales at there were 103 stores that opened up within 20 miles of our 3 stores. over the last year or so. And what we're very proud about and happy about is that sales have, for the last 2 quarters, stopped declining, even in the face of, 10 times, roughly 10 times the competition or more versus what we originally had. So New Jersey's very, very strong. Our wholesale was down a little bit sequentially, but it's still up 100% year over year. And we talked on the call about how we are going to be spending some more money on CapEx to do another expansion there, because we feel comfortable that we would, that we're going to have some place to, we're going to have demand for all that product.
Yeah, that's great.
How are you continually winning in New Jersey? Because across all the other earnings reports, people are pointing to New Jersey as a pain point. You're number one in the state. It seems like it's stabilized. There's still a saturation of retailers coming online. Is it branding? Is it differentiated products? Is it your marketing? Like, what's the sauce to winning New Jersey?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. I mean, we've really definitely had a focus on producing the highest quality flower that we could, and we think that is showing. I mean, customers, they know good weed. That's the thing that's always amazed me about cannabis is like every month in every state, cannabis consumers get more educated and more discerning than they were the month before, and and if you're not getting better, then you're getting worse. So I think we've really, really focused on quality. We've focused on diversity of genetics. We had I think like 24 new product launches in the quarter in New Jersey. I didn't see one of the analysts told us yesterday that he was cutting the PDSA data, and out of those new SKUs, I think out of the top 7 products in the state for the quarter, I think 4 of them were ours, and they were all new launches. So I think that's really it. It's just focusing on the customer. I mean, somebody heard my Jeff Bezos quote in our earnings script yesterday, and he sent me another one, which I often tell people as well, and it reminded me of it. The whole thing was like, don't pay attention to your competitors, pay attention to your customers.
Totally.
And I think when you're paying attention to your customers, and if that's your number one focus, then you're usually going to do better than some of your other competitors. I think also our experience at our stores, the retail experience, people, it's resonating with people. The fact that they've got 103 other stores within 20 miles to ours, and we're not only flattened, but in Q2 started to grow a little bit at retail. I think that speaks a lot about our stores and the people that we have working at the stores and how they're creating a good experience.
And then the expansion as it relates to the Boonton facility. I mean, we've been there, so we've seen the operation firsthand. Is that to meet growing demand to retail, growing demand at wholesale? And is that expected to be all canopy, or is it expanding other business lines from an infrastructure standpoint as well? Yeah,
Keith, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, sure. It's both. So it's to serve all the demand. So on both channels, and it's increasing our cultivation capacity as well as our manufacturing capacity. So both, and we're looking to get to market quickly there. So we have some smart, innovative, relatively cheap, might not be the perfect word because we're going to do it right, but inexpensive ways to invest and get that capacity and that output out there in time for early 2025.
Yeah, frugal.
CapEx light.
CapEx light. And just to back up to like about say about a year plus ago or more, we had been talking about spending a bunch of money on CapEx for an expansion that we ended up holding off on, because what happened was we started getting such higher yields a year ago or so that we said, like, this is our expansion without all the CapEx dollars. Yeah, we got a big increase in capacity out of that, but now we need even beyond that. So that's where we're going to be spending the money.
Also on to headline, G&A expenses came in at 24.1, which again was trimmed from last year at 30.5 million. Your cash climbed as well to 30.5 million compared to 25.7 from March 31. So all in all, this represented your 8th consecutive quarter of positive cash flow from an operations standpoint. So Keith, again, where do you think you are? Like, we've got a lot of short-term catalyst moments pertaining to this industry as it continues to grow, but from pure operations level as a CFO, how do you think you're positioned going into the final portion of 2024?
Yeah, we're positioned well. The other thing to mention that's super important is we closed on a 140 million refinancing, which extended the maturities of our debt that's maturing here later this year.
Yep.
So that path's clear. But yeah, more importantly, we've been generating cash consistently for 8 quarters. We're happy with the quarter that we just delivered. I think the team is really starting to click on all cylinders in terms of working capital management and efficiency. So that's where you're seeing a lot of that cash flow improvement is our inventory levels are healthy in particular. So that's helped out a lot. And yeah, the cash balances are higher. We expect that to continue. And then, that sets a good stage for the M&A discussions that we've been talking a lot about.
You were not gun shy about the M&A discussions on the conference call. So, I mean, walk me through that. I mean, I'm assuming Ohio is the focus, and you had mentioned other key markets where you'd be going after, let's say, tier 1 or high grade players. Are there any other markets, I guess you can allude to, that you're looking at right now? And how's Ohio looking post adult use rollout?
Yeah, I mean, we're moving along. Ohio, as you mentioned, we haven't been shy about it. Ohio is definitely a priority. We said we want to be there sometime around the start of the market. The market opened up a few days ago, and we think that we could be there within a month or two.
Wow.
We've been working on deals. These deals, they take a while. I mean, even I love every time I've worked on a deal, like to snap my fingers after we sign the LOI and we're able to sign the definitive docs and all of that. Unfortunately, the legal process always takes longer than I would like. But there has been, we've sort of gotten relatively deep in discussions with about 4 different players, and we could do, based upon the most recent terms from all 4 of those different assets, their turn of the term sheet. If we did the deals and just accepted the term sheets that they wanted to do, they would be accretive deals. But we're disciplined and we want to get the best, absolutely the best deal and the best asset, and we think we're zeroing in on that. I don't know that there's much more we can say about that, but hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have a lot more to say there. And like we mentioned on the call, like our goal is to be a dominant player in Ohio. We don't want to just be an also ran. We've shown, we feel like we've shown people we make good products, and they resonate with customers, and we've had success obviously in New Jersey with all of our brands. We want to roll all those brands out in Michigan and use the same team from a marketing perspective, from a cultivation perspective, all the rest. We really think Ohio could be a huge market. Remember, New Jersey, we're doing, I don't know, Keith, roughly $10 million a month in revenue, but that's with only 3 stores. In Ohio, you can have up to 8 stores.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot more people in it overall, from a wholesale perspective.
So, I mean, you have one of the larger footprints in Michigan as far as your peers from a publicly traded MSO perspective. I mean, are you guys seeing anything in the numbers where you're forecasting any sort of market share being taken away by Ohio, or is the pricing value proposition too strong and the product's just too cheap in Michigan to where that cross-border traffic is going to maintain until you see certain price compression in Ohio?
We're not close to the border. Our stores are not close to the border of Ohio, so we're actually not impacted by that. But I'm assuming that as you mentioned, the price differential would probably still favor people crossing the border in those spots from Ohio into Michigan.
Yeah, the ideal cities, you're talking Detroit, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Lansing. That's a little bit further north. But is there any key markets that you have your eyes on within Ohio? Like I was there earlier this week, and obviously Canton, Akron, Cleveland, Dayton, Cincinnati. Those are some pretty lucrative spots within the Ohio market. But is there any specific area that interests you pertaining to that state?
It's sort of a mixed bag. I mean, what we're looking at is these vertically integrated level 1 operators or licensees, and they have a big part of what we're looking at is a strong cultivation footprint and that doesn't really matter a whole lot in terms of where you are, obviously. And then on the other hand, there's they all have varying degrees of retail that's open. I would say, there's value. There's some good stores in some of those cities that you mentioned, but then there's some good stores on the borders with like places like Indiana, where we think they're going to see a lot of people coming over the border.
Good point.
So like it could be similar to our store in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, which I think is still probably our top 1 or 2 store in the country. It's only, I don't know, what is it, Keith? 1,800 square feet. It's got like four POSs. But it's right across the river from Pennsylvania, and I think that over half of our customers come over from Pennsylvania to buy there. So we think there could be similar situations in Ohio as well. The other thing is we're also looking separately at acquiring additional dispensaries. There's a cap of 8, but most of the companies we're looking at don't have more than like 4 open. So, but we can acquire our way to the 8 as well,
and that tier one would imply 100,000 square feet of grow or something like that. As far as the infrastructure goes, you'll be able to service the wholesale market.
And 100,000 is big. I mean, we're number 1 in Jersey, and we've got low 42,000 or so square feet of cultivation.
Yeah. Have you made a decision from a corporate perspective which, I guess, branding you'll bring to Ohio, if it's going to be the branding that we see in Michigan, or with Gage, or the Apothecarium branding that we see in PA and your East Coast markets?
We haven't decided that yet, but I would say Gage has some good recognition in Ohio, even though we're not right near the border. There is just being a border state. We think that Gage has some good recognition as a brand. We would definitely want to launch the Gage brand, but we haven't decided in terms of on the retail side whether it be the Apothecarium or Gage, or we're open to keeping the stores that are open under their banner for some period of time before we transition them.
Sounds like you guys need a tailgate at a Cleveland Browns game. That orange helmet with the orange Gage brand would go hand in hand.
Or how about some cheap guerrilla marketing? Buying a few hundred big orange Gage beach balls to have people blow up in the stadium and start bouncing around.
Yeah. I was telling Keith before you jumped on, I'm going to a boating event tomorrow in Michigan. They're trying to break the Guinness World Record of 15,000 boats tied up. So I'll have to stop off at one of your locations to get some of those balls and have those some video footage. Okay, how's that sound?
Absolutely. Let us know.
So I gotta ask Jason, what's your take after seeing Donald yesterday mentioning? He didn't mention it himself. He was asked the question, so he didn't bring it up autonomously. But I mean, any comment there as to the, I guess, velocity we can see as far as the conversation goes with both sides of the aisle now potentially having cannabis be an issue?
I think it's I think it was positive because people haven't really known where he stands on cannabis. He's made a few statements over the last 8+ years or so, but there hasn't been anything very recently. And I think that there's been I think the stock prices in the sector reflect the fact that people are concerned that if rescheduling doesn't happen before the election, and if Trump wins, like, is he a supporter? Would he block it? Would he care enough to block it? Would he try to slow it down? And to me, those statements that he made, even though they were prompted, he didn't say them voluntarily, but it should have given people an indication of where his head is at, and that's why I think that it's very important. And the fact is, like, and we all know this, like, he could completely steal this issue from the Democrats because they have done nothing and done a whole lot of talking for the last, however many years. Like, to me, it's like, it's so perfect that he could show the hypocrisy of the other side, that the presidential candidate who claims that she's for cannabis legalization has arrested or prosecuted hundreds, if not thousands, of people for cannabis offenses.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I was more surprised that the question was asked on a national level, and he mentioned Florida. And if he comes into Florida and I don't want to say fully backs 3, but if he is okay with 3, and if he sheds light on the fact that DeSantis is supporting hemp and he's going against cannabis and actually points that out, that'll be must-see TV, because that's going to be a really awkward conversation.
Yeah, because that exposes DeSantis's hypocrisy as well. And, it's positive for Florida. Obviously, that's positive for the industry in terms of Florida's going to be a huge state from a rec perspective. But it's also his answers were a litmus test for his views on, overall reform. And the fact is, Trump, like Weldon Angelos, who I'm very involved with his organization, he was pardoned by Trump. Like Obama had the chance to pardon him, and he didn't, and Trump did pardon him. So, anyone who says that Trump is, that it's all fake and that he's, that he doesn't really support it or whatever it is. Like, I like to look at people's actions, and I feel like his actions, to me, show that we got as good of a shot with him as with the other side.
What do you think?
I
was going to say, what do you think's changed? Like, obviously, the common sense is both parties want to get behind this because there's an interest level. But what do you think's changed for both parties really to get behind the messaging behind this compared to where we were a year, 2, 3 years ago? Because this is we keep saying that, this is not really important in the grand scheme of things, but is it? Because it definitely generates a big reaction, knowing it's a popular topic conversation anytime you look to social media, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but I think part of what's changed is there's even more states and more revenue being generated by these state legal operations, more employees. There's 400 to 500,000 cannabis employees across the United States. So I think, at least from the Trump perspective, I think he's just being pragmatic and saying, hey, we've got all these huge businesses and all of these employees, also employees that also vote. And
popular opinions increase.
Popular opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, and the other thing about Trump's statement that I thought was positive in terms of the overall environment is it should, you would think, push the Democrats to push a little bit harder.
Yeah.
That's what
in my view, they need a little bit of a push.
That's what I said yesterday. If anything, I don't really care what Trump says. I'm just hoping, I do care what Trump says, but I'm hoping that this now forces Chuck to actually do something, Kamala to actually do something. Maybe we got a final ruling here very expeditiously. Like, he's going to light a fire under their ass for them to get a tangible win, to stop talking. Well, hopefully he does something for them to get a tangible win and just stop talking. And I know it's not company specific, but is there any update or any sort of next steps as it relates to the Boys lawsuit in the future?
Yeah. So we had that decision from the judge. He heard the motion to dismiss, which let us come in with David Boies and argue all of our points, which we were very happy. We thought there was only like a 10% chance that he would do that. He did. Yeah. And what we really wanted was for him to hear all the arguments and come out with his decision, which would be put on the record, and like sort of sympathize with our arguments, but in the end say, but my hands are tied because this is, based upon Supreme Court precedent. That's what we actually wanted. We didn't want him to hear the whole case because it would have set us back a year and cost us a whole lot more money.
Wow.
So this is exactly, we're sort of like threading the needle. This is what we wanted. Now it goes to the appeals court, and David Boies thinks that we could be, arguing this before the Supreme Court, second half of next year.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
All right, Dank Informer. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an update as to your pre-question, but thanks for reaching out. And honestly, guys, thanks for checking in here today, and congrats, obviously, on the latest numbers, onwards and upwards. And let's hope we get some big announcements here in the next little bit. Keith, I got to ask, do you pray every single day about rescheduling and how it can make your job a little bit easier?
Hey, we've already taken the position that we've taken on our taxes. So with a strong legal opinion behind it. So, but hey, that would certainly formalize it all and remove that uncertain tax position that's on the balance sheet.
Yeah. definitely feels like we're on to something new with this industry. I was in Ohio, as I said earlier this week, and I could not believe the start in some of the locations that we were at. So I can understand, obviously, the interest of entering into that market, but it was a hurricane in some of the different markets that I was at. And a lot of people very familiar with the product itself. And got to admit, a lot of driving that I did, there's a lot of cornfields in Ohio. So I'm sure they like their weed.
Yeah, they do like their weed. And the other point I would add on about Ohio in terms of these assets that we're looking at is that there's no other bidders. I mean, it's like it's almost like this is a reverse auction where we're like, okay, we're going to take it down from 4 candidates, company deals to 2 over the next couple of weeks. I mean, there's one bidder one target that told us that they had another bidder, and we sort of laughed to ourselves because there's
why is that, Jason?
Because of the capital market, environment, I believe, and also because a lot of the other larger, multi-state operators are already maxed out there.
Yeah.
So very little competitive tension, which is,
our competition is the sellers themselves deciding to just stick with it.
They might just want to keep it. That's really the choice they're making. Do they stay and work their butts off over the next few years and maybe make a few more bucks, maybe not, or sort of trade their stock in their single state operation for partial stock and partial seller note and earn out or whatever it is in a more diversified publicly listed company.
That's interesting to learn, but totally makes sense. But it's very lucrative market, that's for sure. All right, gents, I'll let you guys run. Enjoy New York City and stay out of trouble. But at the meantime, I hope to see you guys next month, and I'll stop off at one of the Gauge locations tomorrow and get some beach balls. How's that sound?
Absolutely. Let us know.
Awesome.
All
right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's an interesting story to say the least. As far as there we go. Just Ohio, as you said in the earnings call, that's they're not shying away from that, but also interesting to hear that not a lot of bidders, and can't help but feel that once they enter into that market, they're going to have a heck of a strategy, right?
It's growth. I mean, they're doing well in all their markets. I mean, to have the #1 market share in New Jersey is, like I said, impressive when you're hearing from a lot of the other MSOs it's a pain point due to the saturation of retail that's come online. And I mean, the PA, we didn't even get into PA, but their PA wholesale business, I think, has doubled.
Lots to uncover. We didn't talk that much about Michigan.
And then we didn't talk about Maryland either.
Hey, you're right.
I mean, they're in a lot of lucrative markets.
Very.
And they have formidable footprints in all of those markets, with the exception of PA, which I'm sure they'll expand on going into the future. I think they have 6 locations in PA, if I'm not mistaken, and there's an 18 cap in the state.
They're vocal about wanting to get into Ohio.
They'll be in Ohio in the next 90 days.
Yeah. You think one day they'll be in Florida as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. You believe that? Yeah.
I do. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, what a week it's been. Coming up right after this, Anthony and I are jumping off and jumping right back on to do a pre-record with David Klein, CEO of Canopy Growth. We got to jump on in the next 60 seconds. We've got to run. But again, if there's any questions that you guys wanted to ask David based on their latest earnings, let us know now, and we'll incorporate that. Dank Informer, hopefully the question that Anthony asked pertaining to the Boyce lawsuit helped answer some of your questions as to what next. But looks like we're probably looking at a timeline towards the middle of next year, as per his comments. As well as usual, guys, thanks for joining on and logging on this week. What a week it's been. A lot of reports to outline. We've got a few more next week. The cannabis is one. I don't know if there's a couple.
Cannabis came out yesterday.
Yeah, I know they came out yesterday.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of scheduling wise for next week if we've got a few more. We're still reaching out to Kim Rivers to have her on from True Leave. And then actually forgot Monday live stream. We're having Charlie Backdill from Cresco Labs on. So that'll be a heck.
They got a price target. By the way, they got a price target raised today. I think it was from ATB or AGP. Pretty much double where they are right now.
Double. Wow.
I think it was 380 Canadian. I wish they would stop releasing price targets in CAD.
Yeah.
For the US MSOs.
Yeah.
But it was a healthy price target increase. Cresco's You're the Core, whatever the hell Charlie's doing, he's got to write a book on that because it is working. They are firing on all cylinders in all of their markets. And Florida is just going up and up and up for them.
They had 17 media outlets at their grand opening in Cincinnati on Tuesday morning. So I know some of the team that they have in place, from lobbyists to communications, they have all media contacts. So they're doing everything right from all angles from that business operations.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have the right contacts to have 17 media outlets show up to a dispensary location. And they have that. And that is how you get brand recognition without being able to market in certain verticals. But good on them to do that. But Charlie will be joining us. In the meantime, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Make sure to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Again, we're updating a lot of these earnings reports. So if you guys want to see all the latest information, if you want to have access to that, and you haven't done so already, please subscribe. QR code. Bring it on up, Arns. There it is, lower left-hand corner, to our Baked In newsletter as well. Smash that like button. Leave lots of comments. We appreciate it. Love your feedback. Love to get the support that we always do from all of you every single day. Anthony, enjoy the rest of your day and weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday afternoon after the market closes.
I will see everybody on Monday.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.